Imagine having a flawless game in practice, but falling apart when it comes to playing matches. Frustrating, right? I have a recreational player who has a beautiful, technically sound game. He has a great one-handed backhand, a compact forehand, and his serve is quite good at the recreational level. Yet, when he plays matches, in his own words, I just can't do it. I'm no good at match play, and I suck at playing matches. And that's the story that he tells himself. It's the narrative that he keeps repeating in his mind. Regardless if he's been having a great session, if the first few points don't go well, then he's all doom and gloom. Now, it could be true that he's no good at playing matches, that he has no mental skills whatsoever, and that the anxiety of competing is way too much. And look, there are plenty of videos on tennis YouTube that help players out with that issue, but this isn't one of them. Because, in my estimation, the problem for club and recreational players isn't just mental skills, it's about how you're structuring your practices, which sets you up to essentially fail when it comes to match and open scenarios. If this player's problems sound familiar to you, I want you to think about why it is that you struggle when it comes to playing matches. And to get there, we first have to discuss what the different modes of practice are. The first is blocked or constant practice. This is where you recreate a skill, let's say a backhand, in a really predictable environment. This is where a coach will just place a feed exactly on a dime for you, either with a racket or just with their hand. Blocked practice is important for automating and learning new skills, and it can really help beginners to establish a strong foundation and also give you a little bit of confidence. The next mode is variable practice, where you're practicing your skills in a variable format. For us tennis players, the classic version of this is hitting cross courts. So if we go back to that backhand, you're hitting backhands cross court now with a partner. And because the partner is hitting it in different locations with different heights, speeds, and spins, you have to basically adjust to the incoming ball. So variable practice helps to make your skills a little more dynamic, and it's an essential step to getting them closer to that match play or open scenario. And finally, we have random practice. Here, your brain doesn't know what to expect. It has to be prepared for anything. And in the words of Vic Braden, it has to be able to pull out the software packages that comprise your strokes on the fly. This mode is all about unpredictability. You're not sure what's going to come next, and you need to be ready to pull out essentially anything that you have in your toolkit. Now, this type of practice is really essential because it closely mirrors what real match play is like, where adaptability and quick thinking is really prioritized. It forces you to switch between different strokes, understanding where to position your body, and to read the ball coming off your opponent's racket as fast as possible. Now, do you see what I'm getting at? Let's circle back to that player who has beautiful strokes but struggles in match play. Let's think about it through the modes of practice that we just covered. He essentially succeeds in blocked and variable practice, but when it becomes a random scenario, he really struggles. While it might seem that he has some mental hurdles that he needs to overcome, the issue is a little bit more to do with what kinds of situations he's consistently putting himself in. If we were to make a pie chart of how he's spending his time on the practice court, 45% would be in blocked scenarios, 45% would be in variable scenarios, and only 10% would be in random scenarios. So if you've not spent enough time in random scenarios, yeah, of course you're going to struggle when it's time to play matches. If your practice sessions consist of having just lovely little hits down the middle with your practice partners, or your coach is just guiding you through all your strokes while placing a ball perfectly on a dime for you, and you never feel pushed outside of your comfort zone, well, don't be surprised when everything starts to fall apart when it's time to be in a match or open scenario, where your opponent is really challenging you, where he or she, they're making you uncomfortable. And it might have nothing to do with your mental skills, but about how you're preparing yourself in your practice sessions. At this point, you might be thinking, hang on, is this guy just telling me to play more matches? Well, yes, but the prescription is a little bit more detailed than that. Before we go on, just a quick word from the sponsor of this video, and it's actually me. Well, it's my newsletter, The Fast 4, where I provide one actionable tip designed to improve your tennis in 4 minutes or less. If you're liking this video, I'd love it if you'd think about subscribing. The link is in my description below. Actually, this video started out as a newsletter issue. You also need to take a look at the pie chart of your own practice sessions. How much time are you dedicating to realistic, unpredictable, and challenging scenarios and patterns versus how much time are you spending in predictable and easy modes of practice where you're just having a lovely hit with your buddy or your coach is putting that ball right in your strike zone. And look, I've been there too, where all I did was hit a ball cross court for a couple years to beginners and lower intermediates, where I was challenging them, but they really weren't challenging me with what I was doing. And what do you think happened when it came to my playing matches? If 95% of my time on the court was spent in a certain way, then I just wasn't ready to play in a random format or in matches. So here's my suggestion to you. First, assess what your own personal pie chart of practice looks like. Let's say that you do 3 practice sessions a week and play a match on the weekends. Now, I would encourage you to make 2/3 of those sessions as realistic and as challenging as possible. And repeat this for at least 6 to 8 weeks, where the focus is on creating scenarios that are challenging, deliberate, and as realistic as possible. If you really do it, and if you really commit for at least 6 to 8 weeks, I promise you will feel way more comfortable in a match scenario where you don't know what to expect, where no one is putting the ball perfectly where you want it to be. Your ability to react and read the incoming ball off your opponent will get faster. Your positioning, it will get better. Your movements, more precise. The way you practice profoundly influences your performance in matches. If you are a developed player and your goal is to do better in matches, you need to start thinking about balancing your practice sessions a little bit more towards the random side. This way, you're going to set yourself up for success in basically what's the unpredictable environment of match play. Reflect on your practice habits. Are they really setting you up for the challenges of a match? Or are you just staying comfortable with what you do on the court? Trust me, the more you train yourself to be uncomfortable in your practice sessions, the easier it will be to play when it counts. Otherwise, if you've struggled to make a lasting technical change to one of your strokes, gotten frustrated when you weren't able to make that change, I think watching this video will really help you understand what's going on and how you need to make those changes.